A very good afternoon to all of you. Am I visible and am I audible? Kindly give me a confirmation. Am I visible and am I audible? Kindly give me a confirmation. And a very good afternoon to all of you. Are we live, audible and visible? Let me know on the WhatsApp chat. And then we might start. Good afternoon, Vikrant, Sidra, Arbind. Now I have difficulty pronouncing your name. Akojam Washington Meti, right? Akshita Sharma, Vaziki, Savita. Good afternoon, everyone. Visible and audible. Perfect. Great. Okay, welcome everyone. Let's start political science and international relations. Let's start political science and international relations, and let me open up the syllabus part for you once again so that we can see how we are going to go ahead with respect to the syllabus. Okay, let me share the screen with you. Let me share the screen with you. We have most of the people joining us. Great. Okay. So here we have the syllabus once again. And okay, everyone. So we'll be starting with political thought, theory, and ideologies. This is the first topic which we will be starting. Paper 1, part A. Then we'll move on to the other topics. Okay. Within the political thought, theory, and ideologies, we have again many topics. Let's talk about them in detail a little bit. I hope this is visible to you. Now see, when it comes to political theory, we have all these topics with us. Political theory, the meaning and approaches. Then we have some theories of the state, the liberal theory, neoliberal theory, Marxist theory, pluralist theory, post-colonial and feminist theory. We'll see what these are. Then we have political ideals of justice, equality, rights, and then we have the concept of democracy and some issues related to power, hegemony, ideology, and legitimacy. This is one category of issues or one category of topics. Okay. Then we move on to the next category, which is the Western political thought. So we'll be starting with the Western political thought first. In the Western political thought, we have the Western thinkers. 9 thinkers are mentioned in the syllabus. We have to cover in detail these 9 thinkers. Plato, Aristotle, ancient thinkers. Then you have Machiavelli, Hobbes, Locke, Mill, and Marx. These are modern thinkers. And then we have Gramsci and Hannah Arendt, which are the contemporary thinkers. Okay. I'll be invoking this kind of a classification many a times, and we have to get used to the fact that what is ancient, what is modern, and what is contemporary. Right? With respect to space and time, classification is being made, and we'll get comfortable with this classification as we move forward. Okay. Then we have the third part, which is the Indian political thought. Indian political thought, Dharma Shastra, Arthashastra, Buddhist tradition, and some Indian thinkers. So Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, he was asked this time. There was a question on Sir Syed Ahmad Khan this year, and usually it is not a topic which is very important, because in the last 20 years there have been, I think, once or twice a question on Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, but they asked this year. But the good part is that when we study Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, there is primarily one dimension which we have to cover. Primarily one dimension which is most important from the examination perspective, which is Sir Syed Ahmad Khan as a reformer. And fortunately, this was the dimension which was asked. Only this dimension was asked in the paper this time. Very easy question, nevertheless. But yes, from perspective of, I would say, importance, we usually tend to do it in the later stages, or something which might not require that much discussion in the class. Then you have the political ideologies. Liberalism, socialism, Marxism, fascism, Gandhism, and feminism are the ideologies which are mentioned in the syllabus. Okay. Now, we will have a lot of overlap with respect to a lot of things. How? Let me tell you. The idea being, this is the 4 classifications which we have done. Political theory, these topics of the syllabus. Theories of state, justice, equality, rights, democracy, and power. One broad subclassification of political theory. Then I have the second broad classification of the Western political thought. Then I have of the Indian political thought. And then fourth, I have of the ideologies. Okay. Now, when we study PSIR for this portion, and we'll be starting with this portion, there is a lot of overlap. There is a lot of overlap. For example, when I study liberalism, I study the thoughts of John Locke. He is known as the father of liberalism. John Locke is known as the father of liberalism. So whenever I'll study liberalism, I will study the thoughts of John Locke. Also, I will study John Locke as a part of my Western thinkers also. So there will be overlap. Okay. The entire study of paper 1 part A will be done in a very integrated manner. Although I will be going forward in a manner in which I'll tell you about Plato, I'll tell you about Aristotle, Machiavelli in a systematic manner. But at the same time, a lot of things with respect to, let's say, topics like these ideologies, they will be getting covered side by side. Okay. But at a later stage, I will do it separately also. However, when I do it separately, we will not give it much time. In the first instance, we'll be giving it a lot of time. Meaning, first few lectures, there will be a lot of concept building and we will move slowly. At the later stages, we'll pick up pace. Okay. Because in the initial stages, I would want to build concepts with you. Similarly, the concept of justice, for example, or the concept of equality, for example. Now, these will be taught when we are doing even Plato or Karl Marx. We will be studying the concepts of equality when we do Plato. We will be studying equality with respect to Karl Marx also. So these ideas, again, will have a lot of overlap. And in this manner only, we have to move forward also. Okay. So in our minds, we have to start developing structures. Start developing structures. I'll teach you how to develop that structure. And the thinking process has to be in that same manner, so that we study in a very integrated manner. Okay. Having said that, political theory, first portion, second thought, third Indian thought, and fourth is ideologies. We will be starting with this portion, political thought. Okay. First, we'll do political thought, starting with Plato. But first, before that, I'll want you to develop some kind of understanding with respect to political theory and with respect to political thought. So those of you who have read the document which was shared with you on the Friday's class, they would be able to understand things better. Otherwise, if you have not been able to study anything, then also it's not a problem. We'll cover everything now. Okay. Having said that, the great political philosophers, you have to get comfortable with all of them. Having said that, let me start with a fresh note. This is from the morning class of polity. We were doing majorities. Okay. Fresh note for political science. PSIR, Western political thought. Okay. Now everybody, first of all, we are doing political thought. And that too Western. What is political thought? What is political thought? Anybody who would want to contribute to what is political thought, if you have read the PDF which was shared with you. It's a better way of studying whereby some PDF is shared with you, you read and then you come to the class and then we discuss it. Nevertheless, political thought. First of all, it's a thought. Second of all, it relates to something political. Political will refer to something of the public domain. Political will refer to something which is associated with politics. Political will refer to something which is associated with politics. Political will relate to what is public. Now, stay with me. So whenever we study political thought, a question can come to your mind, first of all, that we are studying political thought on one hand side. On the other hand side, we also talk about political theory. And we are talking about all this under the broad classification of political science. The subject is political science, PSIR. The subject is political science. So Minakshi, the PDF was shared on the portal. The PDFs will be shared on the portal, and also we will be sharing the PDFs on the group as well, but we'll stick to the portal. Okay. So all of you, please ensure that you have access to the portal. Ensure that you have access to the portal, and there all the materials will be shared. Okay. So coming back. So the thought can come to your mind that we talk about political thought also. We talk about political theory also. And we talk about political science also. So are these terminologies clear to you? What we are doing? What is the broader classification? What is the broader classification with respect to what we are doing? Understand it very carefully. See, whenever we talk about these concepts, we have to understand that the broad sub-classification within which everything is done is political theory. Political theory represents the sum of whatever has been going on with respect to politics or political phenomena. That is political theory. So it's a theory. First of all, it's a theory related to politics or political. Now, what is political? Political is anything which is related to public domain. Public domain is related to anything which is being done for a larger set of people. So whenever I will talk about public domain, I will differentiate it from private domain. Private domain is what happens within the, let's say, four walls of your house. Aspects of marriage, family, aspects like religion, they will be part of your private life. Okay. Public life will be how and what are the norms and the rules which will govern different families who are, let's say, residing in a community. So in earlier times, there used to be small communities. The way in which we live now, that's a modern way of living. This was not the way how things were. Let me take you to the ancient Greece. There was a concept of city-states. Concept of city-states. The idea was some people who were residing. So there was this community. Let these be the hills separating communities. Pardon me for my drawing. These are hills, okay? Hilly areas. One community living separated by some other hill valley or some geographical feature, and some another community living. There was a very small manner or small community in which they used to live. This small community, we called it as polis, or we called it also as city-states. Okay. These small communities, they tried to regulate their life. Simply meaning they will come together, they will make laws for the governance. Okay. Just like the panchayats meet nowadays, they also make some laws, regulations for the governance. Okay. And they used to live like that. So some of you might be aware about thinkers like Plato and Aristotle. They belong to those times, ancient Greek times, and they used to live in Athens. Plato belonged to Athens. Athens was nothing but a city-state. So small set of people living together, communitarian way of life. Some of you might have seen the movie Sparta. In the movie Sparta, you can see how particular, there are a set of people who are residing and they are fighting with each other. The name is 300. Sparta is the ones who are fighting. They're fighting the emperor. If you've seen the movie 300. So those people, they're living in a very small community, and that is how they used to live and they used to govern themselves. There was a council, they will meet, they'll form laws, and the governance was being carried out. Fine. City states, small city states governing themselves. This used to be how the life was. During that time, there was no differentiation between public and private sphere. There was no differentiation, strict differentiation between public and private sphere because the life was very simple. It was not a complex society like we have. We are living in a very complex society. Fine. We have this functional specialization. Managers are doing one thing, engineers are doing one thing, doctors are doing one thing, and there is bureaucratic way in which the state is functioning. That did not used to be the way of living then. Life was simpler. Why simpler? Economy. So the mode of production, later on when we do Karl Marx, I'll tell you how the mode of production, it is the economy which will affect a lot of things with respect to which how the life is covered. I used to live in a very simpler manner. Why? Because the economy was such. Agricultural society. Or let's go before agricultural society. Some of you might have read your ancient Indian history or ancient history. When was iron discovered? When was iron discovered? There's a very important development associated with the discovery of iron. Before iron, there was one way of living. After the discovery of iron, there is another way of living. Anybody would want to contribute? So we had this way of living, simpler way of living. Economy always will have an effect on how we live. An economy is essentially how we produce, what we produce. There was one time where we were hunter-gatherers. We were hunting and we were gathering food, living. Then slowly and steadily times changed. We came across iron. With the use of iron, we cleared the forests. So with the use of iron, we cleared the forests and we settled down. So settled way of living came into being. And an agricultural society came into being. Earlier, nomads, wandering from one place to another. Okay. I've recently started watching a series on Netflix, which goes by the name of King the People, and the world is essentially coming to an end. Now, what has happened is the food is limited. There are these zombies all around the world, and man has become a hunter and gatherer. Why? Because whatever food they have, they get it in different houses. They have to constantly keep on moving because the zombies keep on coming and they keep on eating them. So what they do is now they go to the jungles, they hunt, they eat. There's no civilization. There's no concept of civilization now. Okay. Okay, so we have during Vedic period, Mahajanpada, 2700 years ago. Fine. Okay, so you know the idea, but I'm going one step extra next in the sense that what was the effect of the iron? 2700 years ago. Okay, it's found. If I'm not wrong, it was found around 9th century BC. Around 9th century BC. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm not correct on this. So see the date. Nevertheless, so easier way of living. Finally, we settled down. Agricultural society came into being. Agricultural society came into being. Then came to be one people who were producing. Then came a people when the produce got we started producing. So there were wheat, there was rice, and At one point of time, we were producing a lot of food grains. So when we started producing a lot of food grains, then at that point, the traders came into being, that we'll take the material from one part of the world and let's say we'll take it to Persia. Thereby, we will sell it. People need it there also. And we'll bring back something and we'll sell it here. So life started getting complex. This is how complexities arise. First comes the economy, how you are living. Mode of production first was hunter and gatherer. Then came the agricultural society. And what we are living today is a capitalist society. It's a capitalist mode of production. We will discuss this in detail. We will discuss this in detail. Okay. And so during earlier times, life was very simpler. There was no public-private divide. As in when we started moving forward, slowly and steadily, life started getting complex. And this distinction between public and private domain came into being. Private domain, we restrict ourselves to aspects of kinship, family, marriage, inheritance, religion. All these aspects are related to our private life. And whatever matters are left, they are related to public life. That means, let's say, in modern times, public life would include, let's say you live in a society. There's a resident welfare association in every society. They will be forming laws with respect to, let's say, the parking spaces. They'll be forming laws with respect to, let's say, till what time your friends can come to your house and you can play the music or party. They'll be making such kind of rules and regulations. That's a very small level. Residents Welfare Association, it's a society level. They're making rules. That's your public life. That's your public life. They're trying to regulate the public life. Similarly, if I extend this argument, and I say, how will the transportation happen? You have to stop at the red light. You have to make a proper, let's say, grid in which the movement will be done. For example, go to Chandigarh. There's a proper way in which the Chandigarh has been carved out. It's a proper grid. Then, with respect to, let's say, you have to go out, so you have to, go on a vehicle. So the vehicle has to be registered with the authority. Then you have to pay a tax on the vehicle. Then you have to stop at the red light. Then you have to wear a helmet. Then you have to buckle your seat belts. They're regulating the way in which things are happening outside your house. That is public domain. Okay. So they have to provide street lights. So they'll take taxes from you. Public good, providing street lights. Everybody. It's not something which is restricted to you or your family only. We call it as public goods. Public life, part of public life. Okay. You'll do it in your economy. When you study economy, you do public goods and private goods. So life started getting complicated. And now my major task was how this public life should be governed. That is where political theory comes into picture. How public life has to be governed. Earlier, when we'll study Plato, we'll see how they are even talking about how the private life is to be governed. Because at that point of time, there was no such distinction, stark distinction between public and private. The kind of distinction which we have today. Modern societies, they are divided into public domain, private domain. So you have your public life, you have your private life, right? We say nowadays, don't we say that social media, don't share too much, don't share your private life too much on social media. Now with the social media, your private life is also becoming public. Otherwise, you have an aspect of private life. So privacy is associated with that. Never mind. So political theory deals with this component, public component of the life. Whatever have to be done in the public sphere, that political theory will deal with. Okay. Now, when I say it deals with whatever is in your public domain, what do you do as a part of the public domain these days? As a part of public domain, you go out to vote, you take part in let's say protests. So farmers were taking part in the protests going on outside the borders of Delhi. They were protesting. It's a aspect of public domain, and we say it's a political process. I'll come to that part later. It's a public thing. It's not something which is related to private, because it was for the interests of the entire farmers. It was not for the interest of one person. Had it been for the interest of one person, I would have called it a private thing. It was for the interest of all the farmers as a group. So it belonged to, it was an agenda of public domain. Whatever is the agenda of public domain will comprise part of what is political, Okay. Then what more do? You support political parties, or you might yourself get a ticket from political party. You criticize government. Lots of critiques of Modi, Adityanath, Yogi Adityanath ji. Criticize government. They all be functions of public domain. They all are functions of public domain. I want to have rules, regulations, norms for them. I want to have it for them. Stay with me. Political theory will try to answer such kind of questions. Then, who will have power? How much will be the power? How much will be such power? Who will have power? Will it be the king? Will it be the nobles? Who will have the power? Absolutism, king. Nobles, aristocracy or oligarchy? Or will the power lie with people? Democracy. मोनार्की भी लिख सकते हैं इसे. Who will have power? When I discuss all these issues, who will have power, I am essentially writing political theory. If people will have power, then they will regulate all the functions. Such functions. There are going to be rules and regulations for this. Political theory will try to answer everything on this sort. Okay. Now stay with me. We started with political theory, thought, and science. Okay. Political theory, I told you, is a larger subset. Political theory includes everything what is done in the public domain, and for that many thinkers have written many aspects. Political theory will involve political thought, will involve political ideals. It will involve political thought, it will involve political ideals. Political thought is simply the thought related to what is political. And ideals are what are the ideals related to political life. Ideals like justice, equality, liberty, fraternity. These all are ideals. Ideals meaning something which I intend to achieve. It's an ideal thing. Ideal means the way it should be, ought to be. I'll use the word ought to be. The way it should be, the way it ought to be. Okay. Political theory. Now, political theory is studied as ancient, modern, contemporary. This is how I'm studying political theory. Okay. In ancient times, there was one political theory. In modern times, the political theory, contemporary times, political theory. That means in all these stages, something or the other is being written with respect to how the public life has to be governed. That includes how, that includes some thought. Thought means how things should be. How things should be. Plato has a thought of creating an ideal state. He wants to create the best possible state. He has this thought, and to achieve this, he will write a whole set of books in which he will discuss different aspects related to public life. How to create a state. What is the conception of justice within the state? To achieve justice, I need to have education in the state. To have a better society, I need to differentiate people. He'll talk about a lot of aspects. We'll talk about all this. He's giving his political theory. But the manner in which he is writing will be clubbed under thought. Will be clubbed under thought. And the place where he is writing, the time during which he is writing will be clubbed under thought. I'll come again. So for example, he writes about ideal state. Plato writes about ideal state. He uses some methodology. There is some methodology which he is using, on the basis of which he is giving a proper detailed explanation of creating an ideal state. Fine. I'll say he was a Western political thinker. Western because he belonged to the West geographical area. Okay. I'll call him as ancient thinker, or his thought as ancient thought. Why? Because he is writing during 4-5 century BC. Time. Geography. Time. This is how I will classify thought. Okay. Whatever Plato, Aristotle, and his contemporary wrote, the entire gamut of things, I will say that is political theory. That is political theory. Political theory will be about anything and everything related to politics, political domain, public sphere. Okay. Political thought is something which was written by a particular person in a particular time at a particular place. So Plato will have a political thought. Aristotle will have a political thought. Saint Augustine will have a political thought. Karl Marx will have a political thought. But they are all classified under the broad subhead of political theory. That means whatever they are writing is with respect to public domain or political. And political theory deals with everything that is related to public domain. Political theory deals with everything that is related to public domain. Now, obviously, there will be overlap. We are saying this is political theory. And within political theory will come my political thought. Within political theory will come my political thought. This political thought can be Western political thought, or it can be the political thought of ancient India, let's say. Then we'll say Indian political thought. So in place of Western, I'll use Indian word, Indian political thought. That means geography. Within India also, I'll use ancient political thought and modern political thought. Fine. I discussed this thing earlier also. These political ideals in combination with thought, they consist of everything related to public life, which becomes my political theory. Which becomes my political theory. Okay. Now, with respect to political theory and political thought, we have defined that political theory is the broader classification within which political thought will be clubbed. Okay. Now comes political science. What is political science then? With political science, I will also talk about what is political philosophy. You might have heard about political science also. You might have heard about political philosophy also. First of all, political theory consists of political thought. will consist of political ideal. Okay. Now, this is one way of classifying political theory. I can classify political theory in another way, which is political philosophy and political science. This classification is with respect to methodology, with respect to methodology. What is the methodology used to write political theory? Okay. For example, when we write philosophy, political philosophy, we talk about philosophical questions more. The bent is on philosophical questions. The bent is on philosophical questions. My methodology or my nature of the subject is more bent towards philosophical discussions, meaning I will always talk about how things should be. How things should be, meaning don't give power to one person, distribute the power. Why? Because the person can get corrupt. Is the person corrupt? I don't know. But my idea is he can go corrupt. Why he can go corrupt? Because power can consume. So I will have these kinds of discussions whereby I will emphasize on what ought to be. Don't lie. Be honest. One should always be honest. Honesty is the best policy. What is this? It should be like this. Honesty is the best policy. Be honest. That means be honest. We are saying this is how things should be. Do not lie. We are giving value judgments. We are giving value judgments. We are telling what is right and what is wrong. The emphasis is majorly on what is right and what is wrong. Right is honesty is the best policy, or be honest, or don't lie. My emphasis is what ought to be, how things should be. If I emphasize on this, how things should be, then that is political philosophy. Then that is political philosophy. If I am more interested in how life should be governed, let's say practically, we call political science or political realism also sometimes, or pragmatism also sometimes. You'll get to know this, what they are. Stay with me. I'm saying political theory is being defined into two parts, political philosophy and political science. Political philosophy is when my emphasis is on what ought to be, how things should be. I'm not interested in how things are. I'm always interested in how things should be. That is political philosophy. So my all discussions will be like, this should be done. If this is done, then the society will be better. Equality should be there in the society. Liberty should be there in the society. Men and women should be equal. Are they equal? No, that is different. This is political philosophy. And then if I come into what is practically going on, that is political science. That is political science. I'll introduce new words for you now. Political philosophy is idealistic in orientation. Political science is realistic or pragmatic in orientation. Political science is pragmatic or realistic in orientation. When I say orientation, the meaning is how they look at things. How they look at things. The best example for both of them will be if we take the example of Plato and Aristotle. Plato is known as father of political philosophy. Why? Because when we do Plato, we will see how his entire emphasis is on ideas. How his entire emphasis is on ideas. Idea versus matter is the most important crux of the political theory. Whatever we will be doing, we will be understanding it from the perspective of idea versus reality. And this will open up new vistas for you, new ways of thinking for you. How? We'll come to that. Stay with me. Philosophy is always idealistic in orientation. Philosophy is, let's not say always, it is usually idealistic in orientation. Idealistic means it will talk about creating some conception of society which does not, which is not present, which you do not have it right here. It will create a world. It will create a new world, philosophy. Because the idea is, what they are emphasizing on is what ought to be. They'll create a new world of ideas. It is different from the world which you perceive with your sensory organs. Ideas are something which you imagine in your brain. We differentiate ideas with matter. Matter is something which you can see with your sensory organs. Okay. For example, religion is an idea. Religion is an idea. God is an idea. Or religion is a means to achieve God. So let's say God is an idea. God is an idea. Have you seen God? No. There is an idea created. There is an idea which is created that there is a God. And around that, human life is, it's a very important component of human life. It's a very important component of human life. But at the end of the day, it's an idea. It's an idea. Okay. Religion is just a systematic way of reaching that God, reaching that idea. I differentiate it with matter. What is visible to me? What is visible to me? Poverty is visible to me. Somebody is dying of hunger. Visible to me. I can see it through my eyes. Or simply, let's say this thing is visible to me. It's matter. When I talk about things with respect to how I can see them with my sensory organs, I become materialistic in orientation. I will be materialistic in orientation because my focus will be on matter. This is composed of matter. What is matter? Those of you who from the engineering background, what is matter? Anything that occupies space and has weight is matter. This pen would occupy space and has weight. This is matter. Anything that occupies space and has weight is called matter. If you are focusing on them, then you become materialistic in orientation. Opposite to this is you are idealistic in orientation. India has been very spiritual. We usually differentiate Eastern civilization, Chinese, Indian, as spiritual or idealistic. And Swami Vivekananda, Aurobindo Ghosh, they talked about how India is very spiritually advanced. But we are not materially advanced. Why? Because we don't have industries, that many industries. We do not have the kind of, matter, the kind of matter, let's say, exists in the Western world. So they are materialistic in their orientation, or they are, I would say, materially more advanced. We are spiritually more advanced because we believe in ideas. We are very advanced when it comes to ideas. We are not very advanced when it comes to science and technology or what is visible, what is matter. This kind of a distinction you have to start developing: materialistic versus idealistic. Philosophy is idealistic in orientation. Okay, ideas. Political science, on the other hand, is more realistic and pragmatic. Not saying it is not idealistic, but it is realistic. It will not live in the world of ideas. It will live in the world of what is happening. Let me come to the example of Plato. Example, Plato has talked about someone called as Philosopher King. Sometimes Modi ji was said to be the Philosopher King, which will come and rescue the state of India. Philosopher King is a hypothetical concept created by Plato It's a king who cannot be who cannot be uh, you know uh, who will never be corrupt, who will never who will never indulge into favoritism, who will never indulge into nepotism, who will not be self-interested, and he is everything what you can think of, in the sense that he is an embodiment of sacrifice and knowledge. He says he's an embodiment of sacrifice and knowledge. A person who will rule Athens, who will rule Athens. Athens was a city-state back then. They had lost the war. Athens has lost the war, and Plato was very concerned that why they have lost the war. And so he wanted the state to be best governed. How will the state be best governed? He's trying to find an idea. During finding that idea, he says, we need to create a philosopher king. Let's create a philosopher king. Who is this philosopher king? He's the best person possible living on the planet Earth. He says, philosopher king. It's an idea he's creating. A person outside the realm of corruption, a person outside the realm of nepotism, self-interest. Can you think of such a person? It's an ideal thing. It's an ideal thing. Does it exist, or is it just an idea? He's creating the institution or the office or the body or the idea. He creates the concept of philosopher king, and he says the nation should be ruled by a philosopher king. Should be ruled by a philosopher king. Aristotle comes, and Aristotle is known as the father of political science. He's known as the father of political science. He's not known as the father of political philosophy. Why? Because he is more scientific, realistic, and pragmatic in orientation. He will not venture into the world of ideas. He will say, stay on the earth and let's do things. Don't go into some ideal world whereby you are trying to go and find this philosopher king who is outside the realm of corruption, nepotism, favoritism, self-interest, a true embodiment of sacrifice and knowledge. And this person will rule. And when this person will rule, Athens will become the best governed state. He's talking about this. He's given his theory around this. It's idea. It's idea that such a philosopher king can exist. Aristotle says, I don't know. I don't know if this person will exist or not. What I know is that there are some people existing, and we have seen how these people are. These people are self-interested. These people are self-interested. Although he says these people, self-interest is not problematic, but self-interest sometimes can curb the interests of the others. Then things become problematic. This person can be corrupted. This person can indulge into nepotism or favoritism. But men are rational also. But men are rational also. Rational, they have reason. Rational means reason. We can reason something with our logical capacity, with our cognitive capacity. We can reason things. So it's reasonable that you came for online classes because you did not want to lose on time. We don't know when the offline classes will start. So you're a rational person. Okay. The institutes which take higher costs in offline classes, now they don't have to pay for the rent of the buildings and pay for the electricity expenses and pay for all the staff. So they are rational and they reduce the price of the course also. Man is a rational being. Okay. So he says man is self-interested, corrupted, nepotism, favoritism, but rational also. So he says, I don't think that this idea will be fruitful, that this person will come and govern this Athens and Athens will become a great city-state. He says, let's stick to what we know in this world. We know man is self-interested because we have seen it. We know man is a corrupt being because we have seen it. We know man is rational because we have seen it. So I'm not going into some idea. I'm saying what I have seen it through my experience. On that basis, I will not talk about this. Rather, I will say, let's have rule of law. Don't give the authority to a king, but let's give authority to law. Let law be the supreme institution, not the king. Why? King can be corrupt. Law cannot be corrupt. Law cannot be corrupt. Everybody will come under law. For example, in case of India, now also, we say constitution is supreme. So even the prime minister, even the president, they are bound to obey the constitution, and they are not above the constitution of India. It is the constitution of India which is supreme. And what is constitution? Constitution is nothing but a body of laws. Body of laws. So we are saying we will be governed by that body of law. Law is governing at the end of the day. Modern societies, law governs. Ancient societies, king used to govern. Modern societies, law will govern. Ancient societies, king used to govern. Difference. Now they both are writing during the same time. One is talking about the ideas of Philosopher King, he being sacrifice, he being embodiment of sacrifice and knowledge, and he creating the best possible ideal state. And on the other hand side, you have another person who is the greatest disciple and the greatest critic of Plato. He says, I will see whatever is happening, and on that basis, I feel power cannot be given to one person. Power should never be given to one person. Okay. The idea, like you might have sometimes heard, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. You might have come across this very common dictum. Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. There's an essay on this also in UPSC. Go and see. Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So it's about how if you give one man power, that power can reach to his head and he can do crazy things. Game of Thrones. Have you seen Game of Thrones? How many of you have seen Game of Thrones? How many of you have seen the Game of Thrones? So in the end, what happens is, Jon Snow, he's worried that Daenerys, queen, she has dragon, she has control of dragons, and she would go crazy of the power which comes with the dragons. And this is what happens also. They have shown in the show. In the end, she burns the entire village with the help of her dragon, because power, it's not easy to handle power, and people can misuse power. So this is a common example, or we have many examples in the history whereby power can drive people crazy. So because of that, we say that power should not be given to any one person. But Plato was saying, let's give power to one person because he is the best possible person. We are not saying that this cannot exist, but that is something which may or may not, because it's this idea. Something which exists is we have seen how men behave. So it's better not to give all the power to men. Let's, for the perspective of Aristotle, let's give it in the hands of law. Hence comes the concept of rule of law. Rule of law is a modern day concept. Modern democracies are run on the rule of law. The concept came from the ideas of Aristotle for the very first time. Now, rule of law is an idea on which we are governing our states. We are not governing our states on the basis of Philosopher King. Although you take the example of Iran, Iran will be a country whereby Philosopher King exists. The Ayatollah Khomeini. He is the Philosopher King. He is the king who is ruling Iran. But otherwise, modern democracies, they work on the principle of rule of law. The idea given by Aristotle. Now, this is very practical. This is realistic how things happen. And that is why we are classifying it under political science or political realism, not under political philosophy. Okay? Because we are not focusing on idea, we are focusing on how things are. How things are. Political theory will have political philosophy components. It will have political science components. Okay. Both components are a part of political theory. So when we read the views of thinkers, some thinkers have philosophical bent, some thinkers have very materialistic or practical bent. Whatever both of them wrote, both are part of political theory. Both are part of political theory. Okay. So political political theory is essentially everything that is written by the philosophers regarding the public domain, and it covers a huge gamut of issues. Those gamut of issues will come slowly and steadily. Absolutely. Turkey's, yes, we can consider him also as a philosopher king. Absolutely. So the idea, you're getting, this is how again political theory is classified. This is how I'll classify political theory. Now, write down, take down some notes. Take down some notes. So in this manner, we'll go ahead with the classes. Explanation, notes, explanation, notes. Write, please. Right? What is political thought? What is political thought? Political thought is about politics or what is relevant to politics. Political thought is about politics or what is relevant to politics. Full stop. It is an account given by numerous political philosophers. It is an account given by numerous political philosophers relating to political institutions, political events, political events and political activities, full stop. The content with which political thought relates itself is politics. The content with which political thought relates itself is politics. Full stop. Politics therefore constitutes the very soul of political thought. Politics therefore constitutes the very soul of political thought. Next paragraph. Politics as an activity helps secure political power Politics as an activity helps secure political power full stop. It deals with the exercise and retention of power. It deals with the exercise and retention of power. Okay, that was politics. Now, another thing which I need to tell you is, before I move forward with the discussion, is see, whenever we talk about political science as a subject, we have to understand few things in the sense that where we are moving. In this, I'll start with a framework, and this framework is something which I will use very often, and I would want you to get comfortable with the framework. The framework is humans or human, society, and a state. Okay. Now, you can understand a lot of concepts from this framework. When we study political science, our entire focus is on this institution. This you have to understand. Political science is essentially about the functioning, the powers, the roles, the responsibilities associated with the institution of state. Okay. In modern times, state is the most important institution. Okay. Earlier, religion had a very, very important role in the life of people, and religion asked for a kind of allegiance which was parallel to that of a which is parallel to that which is asked by a state. King asks for your allegiance. You know, king asks for your allegiance. The Indian state asks for your allegiance, loyalty. There was a time in the medieval times when religion was at par with the state in asking your allegiance. That has now changed. Now it is the state as the most important institution in our entire life which asks for allegiance. We'll be talking about in detail this institution of state, and how we will see how this institution of state deals with human as an individual, and it deals with society and its various institutions also. But that emphasis will always remain secondary in political science. The primary emphasis will always be on the institution of a state. Just keep this in mind. Okay. Modern state, if we have to talk about modern day, we talk about the concept of nation state. This nation state concept is also a very recent concept. Earlier, we did not have these kinds of concepts. What we are doing, we are seeing how in a society we are being governed. Earlier, there was some mechanism of governance. Now there is a different mechanism of governance. And this entity called as state is the entity which is now what we call it as the sovereign. It's an independent authority. It's an independent authority to which we all owe our allegiance. We owe our allegiance to the Indian state. Fine. Earlier, Bahubali owed his allegiance to the kingdom of Maheshmati. That is how allegiance is there. People have allegiance to other aspects also. People have allegiance to religion also. People have allegiance to their region also. So you might have seen secessionist movements. There's a very strong sense of association of people with their region. They'll say we are a Punjabi, we are a Gujarati, we are a Bengali, we are a Marathi, right? So either that sense of allegiance. There's allegiance. This is known as regionalism. We'll study later on. This is known as regionalism, whereby you have a strong sense of allegiance with your region. Okay. Religion, we all have. We are very sensitive with respect to who we are. It gives us identity. Language, we are very particular about our language. So the issue in the post-independent India, there was this issue of Hindi imposition, which was, raked up by the southern states, where they said that Hindi is being imposed on us by the Hindi dominant, by the basically heartland of India, or the states where Hindi is dominant. And on this, people were divided. People were divided, people were mobilized, and there was so much chaos in the country related to language. Sensitive topic, language, asking for your allegiance, loyalty. Fine. You have strong associations with them, with your religion, with your region, with your language, with your culture, with your caste. These all are, we call them as descriptive identity markers. These things are giving you your identity. Just like being an Indian is your identity. If you go outside India, you will call that I am an Indian. It's your identity outside the borders of India. Within the borders of India, your identity can be on the basis of you're a Hindu or a Muslim, religion. It can be on the basis of your region. It can be on the basis of your language. It can be on the basis of culture. It can be on the basis of caste. All these things provide you with identity. Fine. And identity creates problems also, and identity is important for an individual. The manner in which we have devised our society is whereby we have these factors, or we have these groups. Religion is one group of which you are a member. We are a member. We have created it, and we have created a system. We have created a society in which we are living in this particular manner. All these will demand your allegiance. But in present day, in the modern times, all these allegiances become secondary. The allegiance to the nation state is the primary aspect. The allegiance to your nation state. Irrespective of whether you are a Bengali, whether you are a Gujarati, whether you are a South Indian, or you are North Indian, or you are a Punjabi, you all are Indians. And that comes first. And being an Indian, first your allegiance is to the nation state of India. Then you can have allegiance to these identity markers. The Constitution requires you to have first the Constitution asks you to only have that allegiance, a political identity of an Indian. All these identities, the Constitution does not want you to have all these identities, in the sense that they are a part of your, let's say they create political issues. They can be your part of identity in the sense that you have an association with them. But if these identities, they can be a part of creating cleavages in the society and creating political problems, then the Constitution does not envisage such a thing. Okay. Why I'm talking about Constitution, that also will come a little bit later, how we are being governed with the help of a Constitution, and how a new kind of a order is being set up. We never had this kind of a thing. Earlier, the king was always from a particular religion. Hindu king or a Muslim king would ask for allegiance. Fine. Sometimes the allegiance was asked with respect to religion. Sometimes there were not secular kings. They'll ask for allegiance with respect to the religion. They'll say either you convert or I'll not let you live in my territory. This used to be the way in which we lived. This aspect of nation state and them being secular, this is a very new concept. It's come in the last 400, 500 years. That's it. So Vaziki is asking, so allegiance towards that element of region, religion, etc. to the point of identity affirmation. Is it said that such affirmation could lead to identity politics? Yes, absolutely. See, whatever factor is there, for example, language. Language will unite people. Caste will unite people. Or let's not say unite people, let's say it will group people together. So you have Marathi speaking, you have Bengali speaking, you have Punjabi speaking. People are grouped. Similarly, you have Hindus, Muslims, Christians, groups. Similarly, regions, groups. Now these groups will form the basis for political mobilization and hence the politics. Any group can be a basis of political mobilization. Because at the end of the day, political mobilization is you will appeal to language. For example, DMK. They came to power in Tamil Nadu. Why? On this issue of language. So they mobilized people on the issue of language. A religion, Shromani Akali Dal in Punjab. They mobilized people on the basis of religion and they came to power. This is what we intend to learn in the political science. How you are capturing power. Mobilization of people on the basis of religion. How did BJP come to power? In 1980s, they had 2 seats. 2021, or let's say 2019, 17th Lok Sabha. They have more than 300 seats. How did they come to power in the last 30 years? That's it, last 30 years, not a big duration. Subramanian Swamy in his interview says, BJP focused on consolidation of Hindu votes. Consolidation of Hindu votes. Plus making caste coalitions. Brahmins plus OBCs plus the Dalits all being roped in. We call it as social engineering. That will come in the IGP part, I will tell you. They made caste coalitions and they consolidated the Hindu vote. And on this basis, they created a narrative and discourse. And in this narrative and discourse, people came together and they voted for them. So now I've seen people on the ground level who are supporting BJP because the BJP has brought out the element that particular person is a Hindu. So that particular person did not see himself as a Hindu. Now he sees himself as a Hindu, and that aspect appeals to emotions. So there's a passionate appeal. Religion always has a passionate appeal. There's no reason when it is associated with religion. So religion will always make a passionate appeal, and passion, people are driven by passion. Men is driven by passion, emotions, also by reason, but passion is also very important. Rather, passion is more important in many circumstances. When it comes to normal people, the normal person does not understand reason. For them, passions are important. And a passionate appeal consolidates people. So on this basis, politics is done. On this basis, you consolidate power. Okay, nevertheless, coming back to the discussion, nation states. How these nation states? So I was telling you how in this framework, we have to be slowly and steadily, this framework will be a part of your mental map, and you'll have to give a lot of importance to this institution of state. So whatever we study in PSIR, it is with respect to state. Society obviously influences, but primarily whatever we'll do with respect to state. Okay. What's going on in UP is all about caste-based identity politics. Yes, not only in UP, we have caste-based politics everywhere in India. Caste is a very, very important element in mobilizing people. Caste is a very important element in mobilizing people. So caste helps bring people together and then they vote as a block. That is what happens in India. What is vote bank? This is vote bank. Caste is one vote bank. Vote bank means the entire bank will come to you. Entire chunk of votes will come to you. So the Dalit vote will come to you, or the OBC vote will come to you, or the Yadav vote will come to you, or the Patel vote will come to you. That is how we have structures in the society. Every society has their own structures. Indian society, all these structures are there on the basis of which you mobilize people. Okay. In the Western societies, you don't have these considerations in the mobilization. You have other considerations. You have class as one factor on the basis of which people will be mobilized. So every society will have some kind of this. I heard of something called psych-op tactics in the light of US light election events. Psych-op tactics. I don't know. Give me the context in which you read it. Psych-op tactics. Give me the context in which you studied it. Okay. Moving forward. Please write. We were writing. Next subheading, Western political thought. Western political thought. Whatever I'm writing on my tablet, you can keep noting it down somewhere on the side. Although the dictation part will keep continuing, but keep noting these aspects also side by side. Next subheading, Western political thought. Right. The two major streams the two major streams along which the whole Western political thought, the two major streams along which the whole Western political thought keeps on marching are the two major streams along which the whole Western political thought keeps on marching are first point, political idealism or political philosophy. Political idealism or political philosophy. Second, political realism or political science. Or political, second point, sorry, political realism or political science. Right? While Plato is known as the father of political philosophy, while Plato is known as the father of political philosophy, comma, Aristotle represents political realism. Aristotle represents political realism and is called as the father of political science. And is called as the father of political science. Next paragraph. While political philosophy is idealistic in orientation, while political philosophy is idealistic in orientation, political science is pragmatic in orientation. Pragmatic in orientation. Okay. Next, make a note. Make a note and write. Political thought is understood. Political thought is understood across space and time. Political thought is understood across space and time. Example, Western and Eastern political thought. Example, Western and Eastern political thought, comma, ancient or modern political thought. Or you can write ancient or modern or contemporary political thought. After this, next subheading, please make ancient Western political thought. Ancient Western political thought. Right? The ancient Western political thought can be known from the writings of Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Saint Augustine, etc. The ancient Western political thought can be known from the writings of Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Saint Augustine, etc. After full stop, right? The ancient Western political thought revolves around the city-states full stop. The city-states represented an independent geographical area. Make it, the city-states represented a small independent geographical area city-state represented a small independent geographical area regulating their existence, full stop. There was no concept of a nation. There was no concept of a nation. People considered themselves as citizens of city-states. People considered themselves as citizens of city-states. Full stop. Example, citizens of Athens or citizens of Sparta, etc. So Athens and Sparta were the two most important city-states. They had a fight with each other. So the movie 300, you have seen the Spartans fighting. Okay. Plato belonged to Athens. His city-state was defeated. So, continue. Next paragraph. It is in modern times that we see the concept of nation state it is in modern times that we see the concept of nation state as the defining element of political life. As the defining element of political life. So in ancient times, I told you, city-states. And we are talking about Western political thought. In the Western political thought, first I have made you write about ancient times. City-states is the element of political life. Political life, life associated with public dimension of. You have a private life, you have a political life or a public life. So political deals with your public life. Okay. In ancient times, city-states were the element of political life. This aspect changed in the medieval times in the sense there were huge empires which were the element of political life. Now, there is overlap in the sense that these empires were present earlier also, but they became a defining feature in the medieval times. So in the medieval times, the empires, and then empires were also further divided into different kinds of entities. For example, you have different provinces, just like now you have states. There are different provinces cut out and they were governing themselves. But at the center, there used to be an emperor or a king, and that is how the governance was carried out. This changed in the modern times. And now we have the concept of nation states. This is the element of the modern political life. This is the element of modern political life. Okay. Now, what is this nation state? So, you had city states being the center or the element of the political life. Then you had the empires. There was an overlap. Okay. Don't think that these things are mutually exclusive. There's always, in social science, there will never be a point whereby you'll have a white and a black. There will always be gray areas. Okay. So, we have to make our understanding also in this manner. There were empires present here also. Rather, these city-states, they were fighting the empires, the big empire. So if you've seen that movie 300, which I'm talking about, who they are fighting? They're fighting the emperor. Okay. So empires also, so these empires, they also had their, for these empires, religion remained a very important element. Because if you see in ancient India also, whenever the king used to occupy some territory, he used to perform a religious ceremony. Which involved maybe sacrificing an animal, which involved a ritual called as Ashwamedh, whereby till what extent the horse will run, that area will be marked as the king's area. Or there were the different kinds of rituals which the king will do. They are needed for legitimacy. So the people will consider the king as the rightful ruler. So they do. So empires, states. When I say empires, you should understand that they were the ancient states. Or when I say king, you should equate it with the modern day state. This kind of a relationship is needed because we'll be doing a lot of concepts and we'll refer to the king as a state in the earlier times. Now it's not the same. So empires were there, and slowly and steadily these empires, they gave rise to nation states. This concept materialized in 1648 with the Peace of Westphalia. With the Peace of Westphalia or the Treaty of Westphalia. We'll talk about this also, stay with me. So the concept of nation states came into being. And why we are doing this? Because we are not interested with this or this. We are interested with this. We are interested with this entity because this entity is my area of study in PSIR. And the analogy which I'll make with respect to this institution in the past, that will be required for the analysis. Now comes to what is nation state? There are certain characteristics, specific characteristics associated with nation state. Okay, few characteristics. Nation state. Modern day in PSIR, we don't refer to it as we don't refer to states as just Indian state or US state. We refer to as nation state. There is a concept of nation also associated with the every state which is formed in the modern days. What that is? See, it is a unit of political life, simply meaning around this idea I will be creating my political life. That is the idea. Okay. It's just an entity which we have. It's an entity which I have created myself, nation states, and I am organizing my political life around this entity called state. Okay. Any doubts at this point of time? I hope you guys are not too. Things are not too much for you, nation state and everything. So Arvind is saying after invention of iron, Brahmins got poor, Kshatriyas got sword, Shudras got business, Vyas were employed by Kshatriyas and Shudras. Perfect. Great. What is nation state? Coming back. It's a unit of political life. It's a way in which I am organizing my political life. Okay. Nation and state. There are few specific characteristics associated with what we call as a nation state. India is a nation state. USA is a nation state. They're all nation states. Essential characteristics associated with nation states. Territory. Population. Government. Sovereignty. Essential characteristics associated with nation states. There should be a territory, there should be a population, there has to be a government, and that government has to be a sovereign entity. Okay. Now, stay with me. The state has relation to having a particular territory. India has a particular territory. Okay, pardon me for my drawing. It's not that good. The entire territory of India. Okay, I'm trying to draw the map of India. I'm not able to draw it properly. Whatever it is. Okay, this entire thing, my territory. Every nation state will have its own territory. And that is why you have seen in IR, we usually talk about the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the country needs to be protected. Territorial integrity, it binds me together. It's an element of my sovereignty. Sovereignty is simply independent authority. As of now, understand it as independent authority. We are a sovereign nation. Earlier, we were not a sovereign nation before 1947 because we were being governed by the laws made by the British Parliament. Now we are being governed by laws, made by the Indians themselves. So now we are sovereign. We say we are sovereign. Every nation state in the world, they will be sovereign. They'll have a centralized entity called as government. They'll have population residing within the territory. Okay. Every nation state around the world is defined in these parameters. Now, two aspects, nation and state, very important. Listen to me. While the state involves a territorial aspect, in this territory, you have this government and that government is sovereign. Nation is associated with population and the psychological unity of population. The concept of nation is associated with psychological unity among people, meaning you can have a nation without having a state. You can have a nation without having a state. The population living inside the territory of India, they should have some psychological unity. Now, what is the basis of that unity? That can be various. Language can be one basis of unity. Culture can be one basis of unity. Religion can be one basis of unity. There can be numerous bases of unity, but there has to be some psychological unity. That means people consider themselves as alike in some way or the other. In some way or the other. That is an integral part of a nation state. For example, Akshita is finding it quite abstract. Also tell what type of a question come from this. There was a question in UPSC prelims this year or last year. They were asking the definition of state. Go and see the definition of state. Now go and try to attempt the question after we have done this. Prelims 2020 or 2021, I don't know which one. Things will become a little bit more clear for those for whom the subject is new. Give it 3 or 4 lectures. Things will become clear to you. But these are important concepts. Nation states. We have no idea about what a nation state is. So we all know about Indian state, US state. These are states. How they have come into being? They have been carved out on some basis. That basis is that people residing within this territory, they are somehow united. Otherwise, why will they live together? Why will they live together? Nation state. Now listen to me very carefully. There is some psychological unity we are seeing within amongst the population. That is the concept of nation. There is a huge debate of whether India is a nation or not. There is a huge debate whether India is a nation or not. Why? Because Britishers said that India is not a nation. The people are not united. So what happened when the freedom struggle was going on? All people came together to fight the British. The British interpreted it in a very different manner. The British said, no, these people are not united together. These are warring parties. These people are divided amongst themselves on the basis of religion, on the basis of culture, and they are just asking the Britishers for different kinds of concessions and fighting amongst themselves. If you are a nation, then there will be unity amongst you. And from the perspective of British, India was not a nation. Rather, from the perspective of moderates as well. When you go and read your modern Indian history, you'll read moderates, the ones who were involved in the freedom struggle in the initial years. For them, Surendranath Banerjee, moderate. He was a moderate. He said, India is a nation in making. India is a nation in making. India is not a nation. What is a nation, first of all? France, Germany. France, everybody speaks French. Everybody has similar culture. Okay. Talking about the majority. Let's take the discussion to 200 years back in France. Now, because of the influx of immigrants, the society is changing. But earlier, what was the society like? People speaking French, having similar culture, residing in a territory. France has a territory, whatever the territory is, whatever people are residing within it, they are speaking French, they have similar culture. We say France is a nation because People are same. They are following the same culture. They're speaking same language. Their culinary habits are same. The way they dress, more or less same. People are united on these bases. So France is a nation. See, the idea was, earlier what used to happen was, you had these kinds of empires. Big empires used to be there. And suppose A empire has X, Y, Z kind of people living. B empire has 1, 2, 3 kind of people living, different kinds of people living, basically. Meaning is different kinds of people were living within the empire. We changed this system to create this system. We changed the system to create this system whereby in a particular territory of A, only X kind of people are living. And we called it as nation state. We called it as nation state. This state is because these people have a government, these people are residing within a territory, and nation because these people all are X. They are united together. So they feel that we are one people and we should reside in one territory, we should have one government which will govern us. Earlier here, in case of empires, different kinds of people were living, different cultures were living. Now we have changed this to create this concept of nation state. Now when we change this concept, the idea was one kind of a people will inhabit one territory. One kind of people will inhabit one territory, but that people have to be united together. French people, they are united together. Similarly, the Germans, speaking same language, same culture, same kind of people. Let's create a territory of our own. Let's create a government. Let's make it sovereign. And we are living. This became the basis of our living in modern times. Okay. Now, India, so many different kind of people residing within this territory, X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, P, Q, R, so many cultures, so many languages, so many culinary habits, different ways of dressing up. What unites Indians? What unites a person residing in Punjab with a person residing in South India? Is there anything which is basically creating a sense of belongingness, fraternity, brotherhood? Aayegi? Will it come? This was what the Britishers used to say. No. The X, Y, Z, they are fighting with 1, 2, 3, they are fighting with PQR, and everybody is fighting so as to get benefits. Even the moderates, they felt that India is a nation in making. It is not a nation, meaning Indians do not have some kind of psychological unity which will bring them together. It's a matter of debate. Although we have the other side also, which says no, India is very much a nation. The argument given is that you go to South India, you go to North India, you go to East India, you go to West India, you will find Krishna or Vishnu, the various avatars of Vishnu, whether it is Krishna, whether it is Lord Ram, being worshipped in one way or the other. You will find references to Krishna, you will find references to Lord Ram, and you will find how people residing in North, South, East, West, they are deeply religious. Religion is so much integral part of their life. They worship similar kind of gods. Some of the value systems are similar. This makes India a nation. That means there is something which is uniting them. It is a matter of debate still now, whether India is a nation or not. But coming back to the concept, there has to be some psychological unity amongst the people, and on that basis we call a territory and people residing in the territory as a nation state. Although India is called a nation state, we can debate whether India is nation or not. But France, definitely a nation. Germany, definitely a nation. Similar people, similar culture, they are together. There's a unity that we are together. We are similar. Okay. Now the aspect I said, you can be a nation without being a state. Let me take you the example of Kurds. Kurds are people who are dispersed along Iran, Iraq, Turkey. Some population lives in Iraq, some in Iraq, some in Turkey, some in Syria also actually. They are asking for Kurdistan. That means a separate state. They are asking for a separate state for themselves. Why? Because they say that Kurds living in Iran, Iraq, Turkey, and Syria are same. We identify with each other. We are a nation, but we do not have a territory of our own. We do not have a territory of our own, but we are a nation because we all are together. We all consider each other as, let's say, brothers. They are a nation, but they are not a state because they do not have a territory, because they do not have a government, and that government is not sovereign. Territory nahi hai, and the government will come later on. First, you need to have a territory. The day they have their territory, they establish their government, a sovereign government, they will become a nation state. They will become a nation state. That is how we differentiate nation and state. And now, in a territory, similar kind of people live, and we call it as nation state. This is the basis of my political life. Now everything will start. Now I have said this. I have made this. This all changed from this to this. Earlier, there used to be empires. Within empires, there were no concepts like a boundary which will separate, let's say, Indians from Pakistanis, or which will separate, let's say, Kurds from, let's say, the Ahmadiyas or the Shias residing in West Asia. No. Now the problem, do you know why the problem came? Because the borders are created by Britishers. The Britishers and the colonial masters, other colonial masters, they left West Asia and Middle East, and they created artificial boundaries. They created artificial boundaries. People were residing on either side of the boundary. And they said that we are together, but we have been separated because of the boundary created by the colonial masters. And hence these issues are going on. Hence the issues are going on. Nevertheless, no need to get into these details. This is all what we intend to cover in the PSIR. But nation state, you need to remember. What is a nation state? Present day political life will be governed around nation state. Okay. In India itself, you will see Khalistan movement, you will see secessionist movement, Bodoland, they're asking for the separate entity. Why? Don't they consider themselves as part of the Indian Union? There is some problem. Definitely there is some problem. It is bound to arise. It is bound to arise in a diverse society. People will have different allegiances. So the ones who were asking Khalistan, in Punjab, there was a movement, Khalistan. We call it as Secessionist Movement. Meaning they wanted to separate from the Indian Union. They wanted to separate themselves from the Indian Union. Why? Don't they consider themselves as Indian? Indian is your psychological unit. We are Indians. This should bring you together. But they did not consider themselves as Indians. They said, no, we want a separate nation state for ourselves. This is bound to arise. In any diverse society, these kinds of things are bound to arise. We are dealing with this. We are dealing with this. These are challenges to nation building. The terms which I'm using, please keep a note of these things because it's a UPSC question. Challenges to nation building. What are the challenges to nation building? First of all, you need to know what is a nation. Then you will know the challenges. Best example is casteism. Caste is a roadblock to India emerging a nation. Simple meaning, caste will keep dividing the people. As a result of caste, you will remain divided. And once you remain divided, you are not together. If you're not together, you are not a nation. You're not a nation. Ambedkar said, he said, because of caste, we will not be able to emerge as a nation. Is emerging as a nation important? Something for you to think on. Something for you to think on. Yes, good. Palestine can be quoted under nation without state. Good. You understand the concept. Nation is a very important aspect. I will keep referring to nation in our discussions, but trying to give you the starting point, nation state. Now, whatever I will do with the nation state. I will keep playing with this nation state. I will give it power. I will take away power. I will criticize this nation state. Everything is going to be done with the nation state. Okay. You can write. You can write. In modern times, the political life is the elementary unit of political life is nation state. And write the essential characteristics. The essential characteristics or the features of nation state are: first, territory; second, population; third, government; fourth, sovereignty. After this, right? While state is a territorial concept, nation is a psychological concept. In India, who has talked about nation? Idea of nation. The idea of nation in Indian context has been propounded by some political thinkers. What is Indian nation? What is India as a nation? Any idea? Next paragraph, right? In Europe, ethnicity, language, culture, and religion. In Western Europe, ethnicity, language, culture, and religion became the basis of oneness, or nationhood, Such a conception of nation such a conception of nation comes under the theory of cultural nationalism. Comes under the theory of cultural nationalism. In Indian context, such an idea of nation, in Indian context, such an idea of nation is propounded by Jinnah and Savarkar. Jinnah and Savarkar. In the bracket, right? Essentially, their idea of nation is Western or European. Essentially, their idea of nation is Western or European. How has Savarkar defined India as a nation? Do you know the concept of Pitra Bhumi and Punya Bhumi? We'll discuss this also. First, write this. The idea of nation, such an idea of nation. See, in European context, what we are saying is, what is a nation? You have similar ethnicity, you have similar culture, you have similar language, you have similar religion. France argument or Germany argument will make things clear to you. Similar people, similar culture, similar language, similar ethnicity, similar religion. They are nation. Okay. This is how the West is defining what a nation is. In Indian context, such a conception of nation. We will define nation separately, differently also. Okay, later on. As of now, let this be the major conception of nation which you know. So Indian National Congress, they have given a separate conception of nation. What nation is. But modern times, nation state, the nation has to have psychological unity. And usually the psychological unity comes from either language or religion or culture or ethnicity. Right? All these things, if you see in case of India, they are not present in the sense that North will have different ethnicity, South has different ethnicity. North has different language, South has different language. North has different culture, South has different culture. There are stark differences when it comes to these elements. And that is why the Western scholars, they will say India is not a nation. India is not a nation. Nevertheless, the conceptions by Savarkar and Jinnah, they have interpreted things in a different manner and they have tried to put India within the framework of the nation. So we'll talk about this, but first you write this. Next paragraph. There is an alternate concept of nation. There is an alternate concept of nation there is an alternate concept of nation, which is the idea of political nation. Put political nation in inverted commas. It's a keyword. We'll be putting the keywords in inverted commas and we'll be using them later on. Full stop. It is primarily represented by Indian National Congress. It is primarily represented by Indian National Congress. Full stop. It is based on the idea of unity in diversity. It is based on the idea of unity in diversity. continue. According to this idea, nation is to be constructed. I have to construct a nation, they are saying. Nation is to be constructed through different means. Example, centralized administration, centralized planning, secularism, independent judiciary, democracy, etc. Okay, so I leave it today at this point. I'll not go into the details of this because it will be too much for you at this point of time. I want you to try to absorb what we have studied as of now. Tomorrow we'll start with Plato itself. Nation state is important in the sense that we are starting with a concept called as nation state. I'll keep referring to this very often, and tomorrow I'll start with political thought, but at the same time I would want you to have a separate column in your notes in what you take down dictation like this, and I will be giving you some definitions, and this will be a part of the daily lectures. We will be doing some concepts, we'll be understanding the political thought, and there will be many terms which will be new for you. For that, you will have to write definitions, and I would want you to write your definitions on this side so that you have a proper notes made at the end of the day. Okay, so here you can write your all the analysis, all the part which I'm dictating, and let this space, right hand side space, be for the this definitions. Okay, the nation state should actually would have come on the right hand side had I told you in the beginning, but I forgot. So from now on, you take care of this. It will help you later on, because the more systematic notes are, the more easier it will be for you at the later stage of time to revise. Any doubts at this point of time, go ahead and ask. Otherwise, we'll be ending today at this point of time. This idea of political nation, that this has to be created, I will be talking about tomorrow, but essentially deals with all this. You will come when you do your modern Indian history, or those who have done your modern Indian history will be able to relate better. Moderates 1885 to largely 1905. Moderates, they believed in this. They said that first let's unite Indians on the, they said that Indians cannot be united as of now. First there should be some modernization. First there should be some education which should be given to Indians. First there should be some administrative setup which is uniform for everybody. What do I mean by administrative setup being uniform? You have courts, you have police thanas. Earlier this was not we did not have a uniform system. When did we have a uniform system? The Britishers came. Cornwallis, he was the one who made a uniform system of administration in India, whereby you have police thanas, and then you have kacharis, and then you have higher courts. It's kind of a system which is similar across India. It's called uniform administration. So they also believe that first Indians should get used to this. Then they will feel that all of them are governed by similar laws. And then let education percolate down. Let them know the ideals like liberty, equality, justice, the Western ideals, rule of law. Rule of law is a new thing to us. We were not living under rule of law before the coming of Britishers. It was the rule of the king. Britishers came, they brought in rule of law. And now rule of law is so important. We refer to everything constitution. unconstitutional. No, 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 you cannot do this. This is unconstitutional. Rule of law. So the moderates, they believe that India is a nation in the making. It's not a nation, but it can be created a nation. But that conception is political nation. This is different from cultural nation, a nation on the basis of culture. This is what France is, Germany is. They have similar culture. In culture will come aspects like language can be associated, language can be clubbed under culture also. All these things, they are used very interchangeably. So for those who are new, just give it some time. Few lectures down the line, things will be easier for you. As of now, this is a new thing is coming to you, and you might feel like, it's a lot. But we have to get comfortable with what is nation, what is state, political nation, cultural nation, and unity in diversity, unity in uniformity, all these terminologies. Nationalism, what is nationalism? अभी एंटी नेशनल बन गए थे सब बीच में से. What is nationalism? What is anti-nationalism? Okay. Cultural nation, political nation. So political nation is you have similar administrative setup, judiciary which is independent, which is not biased. Democracy is established in India. All this will unite people because then they will see that we all are governed by similar laws. We all will go to the courts to adjudicate our laws. This will create a sense of brotherhood, or this will create a feeling that we are one set of people. It's not that this is not there. So if you go outside of India, you won't say that you are a Punjabi or you are a Gujarati. You'll say you are Indian. That time you will assert your Indian identity. That time anybody from South India or North India or East or West India will assert its national identity, that I'm an Indian. Within India, you can assert different identities. But outside India, you assert Indian identity. That means there is something which is common to everybody. That is why you are saying you are an Indian citizen. That is also there. Although the point is that has been given to you from the top. That means state has been created, and now within whatever who are living inside, you are said that you all are Indians. So you identify yourself as Indian outside. Within India, you will not say that you are an Indian. You will say you are a Punjabi. You are a Madrasi. Okay. Try to understand how things are. Never try to look for white and black. Things will always be gray in the sense concept has been created. There will be challenges to the concept all the time. All the time there will be challenges. But these integrities and nitty-gritties you have to understand to understand that yes, it is a holistic picture. That we have this also, we have this also. Okay. Different schools of thought. Different schools of political nation, cultural nation. Nevertheless, even if you have understood 10% of cultural versus political nation, that's fine. It will be coming later on in the IGP portion. But nation state is something which I would want you to have a good idea. This is very important because on this basis, I will be taking forward the discussions. Okay, fine. So no doubts at this point of time. Okay, everyone. Patience will take you a long way. M.N. Roy, no, Savarkar. I was talking about Savarkar and Jinnah. Okay, great. So how are you all guys doing your IR sections? Following the news? Please keep following the news. No need to write anything down. No need to take down any notes at this point of time. Just keep following the news. One newspaper, Hindu, Indian Express, whatever you are reading, sufficient. But keep following it. For example, recently there's a Sri Lankan financial crisis are going on. I hope you all have joined the Telegram channel. If not, I'll share the link, the address with you, and you can please go and be a part of the channel because I keep sharing resources there. Okay. So recently the Sri Lankan financial crisis are going on, and they're not able to service their the loans. They've taken loans primarily from China, and now they are not able to pay back the loans and the credit which is due. So they're asking for help for India, and India is helping them, and not a problem. And we need to see the strategic aspect involved with the help. Why should we help? Why should not we help? Why we are giving them the money, a line of credit we are providing them. We are providing them grants for different food, fuel purposes. Why we are doing that? So there is strategic aspect involved whereby we intend to keep Sri Lanka closer to us so that they do not, warm up with China. Already they are under the debt of China. So in the long term, we would want Sri Lanka to be a part of to be on our side basically, and not on China's side, because it's an important player in the Indian Ocean, in the sense that it is important geographically. Sri Lanka is important geographically. The Hambantota port is important geographically. So we would want Sri Lanka, in a sense, if Sri Lanka owes us in common parlance, then that is what we intend to do. Okay. Okay, perfect. Any doubts at this point of time? Go ahead and ask. Already shared with you some material with respect to Plato. You can read it if needed. Otherwise, for 2 or 3 lectures, no need to read anything. Just come to the class. Next day, half an hour or 15 minutes, you can revise the lecture and come at 1 o'clock. After 3-4 lectures, you will have a lot of content to revise, and I'll be providing you with more. Myanmar issue seems complicated. Myanmar issue is very complicated. So now either USA is going to pressurize India in the sense that they were looking forward for the establishment of the democratic regime, and USA would pressurize India also to take a democratic stand. We at this point of a time are not in a luxury to take a principled stand. We would want things to move in a manner in which they do. Obviously, if they work in the favor of democracy, it's better for India. But India would have to indulge with the military dictatorship, in the sense that if India does not, then India will be alienating Myanmar, and Myanmar will be going closer to China, which we do not want, which we cannot afford. Rather, Myanmar is a very, very important pillar of our Act East policy. And now let's see how things turn out. But India has been very, diplomatically handling the situation well. We have been very, we have been using a very nuanced approach in terms of our communications. We are not using any harsh terminologies, or we are not going for a very explicit support of democracy. We are giving a very subtle defense. We are giving a very subtle support to democracy, and at the same time, we are maintaining the stand that it is their internal issue, and they should solve it within the democratic framework. And we need to do this only. Okay. There's a question. Asian Clearing Union was used. It's a clearing union. Basically, a group of the banks which will help in the liquidity situation. While answer writing practice, government policies like NAM, Panchsheel can be criticized, or we have to praise such things always as they are building blocks of Indian foreign policy. No, you criticize. But you don't criticize from your perspective. You criticize it from the perspective of any scholar. So you mention it that as per this and this person, this non-aligned movement, for example, you're assessing the non-alignment as a foreign policy. So you write it from the perspective of, let's say, USA, that from the perspective of John Foster Dulles, non-alignment was an immoral policy. Or from the perspective of Stalin, non-alignment meant going against USSR. Or from the perspective of Nehru, this was this. So either write from that, or the analysis, if done by any thinker, then as per Shiv Shankar Menon, non-alignment was element, which was a genius innovation of the Indians, right in this manner. So that is how things will be. China-Lithuania issue, is it important for us? Not really, not really, not really. David and Goliath, China and Lithuania. Not important for us, not at all. Just know the issue is going on. That is it. We have to understand issues from the India's perspective. Secondly, only those issues which are systemically relevant. For example, if something is happening between USA and Russia or USA and China, then that is important for India. Okay. Or for example, there was a question 2 years back about the denuclearization of the Southeast Asia and the summit between Trump and the North Korean leader. So because it was important from the nuclear proliferation aspect, then it was important. Otherwise, whatever happens in the world, very big events like Brexit has an impact on the EU as a project, and Brexit can have an impact on the India, UK and India EU relation. Then that is important. Then that is important. Okay. Otherwise, these small issues between countries, these are not very important for us. You just read them once because they are part of the news. You should obviously read them, but no need to make notes of them or go into any details of these things. Okay, good. So keep reading the articles. What I intend to do is that we'll try that we incorporate some issues also side by side with respect to IR. So I'll try to incorporate IR also. Let's say after every 2 weeks, we can have 1 or 2 classes on IR, so that we keep doing IR also side by side. It'll depend on how the current events, how the current aspects are turning up. If the whole system of things allows us, then I intend to bring that also into the picture, so that the preparation is more holistic. So on one hand side, we'll go ahead with the political theory. On the other hand side, the IR portion, that can also be started. So for basic things, we can do that. So I intend to incorporate it this year. It will be more, it will give our course a more dynamic angle, and I think it will help you because you will be studying IR anyways. Why postpone IR till the last point? We can do it side by side also. Okay, perfect. So everybody, thank you once again. I hope you are getting the grasp of the subject slowly and steadily. For those for whom the things are difficult, feel free to reach out to me. But I will ask you to just be a little bit more patient and give it 1 or 2 or 3 lectures, and things will start really making sense for you after that. Okay. Chalo, great. Perfect, everybody. Then let's meet tomorrow, 1 p.m. same time. Thank you, everybody.